Hi, good morning, friends. Isn't this a pretty quilt? Welcome to another edition of Facebook Live with me. I'm Therese with Inspired to Sew in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I'm super excited to show you a new quilt. And I'm also going to show you some pre-cuts that we have and how to use them with your AccuQuilt cutter, how to use pre-cuts in there. And then I have a brand new, exciting news and a kit that we have available. We are now offering pre-cut masks. So you can buy a kit and just start sewing. And so I've got lots of options to show you with those, and I'll show you a little bit about the techniques as well. We will be offering a full video that supports just the mask construction of me sewing at a machine. I didn't want to tackle that again this morning. I didn't want to get flustered again. So I will be doing a separate video that is just constructing the masks, but I'm going to show you a couple of tips today as well. So we're so fortunate to be working with a local designer, Vanessa from vandco. She is from our area, and she is a fabric designer for Moda Fabrics and also designs her own patterns. And we're so lucky to get to work with her because she's local, so we can get new quilts from her and new trunk shows and new patterns from her. So I've been able to show you a lot of great quilts and a lot of patterns from her, and I have another new one to show you today. So this quilt is AccuQuilt friendly. It is also pre-cut friendly, so that means that it works great with the jelly roll pre-cuts. So I'm going to show you that. I also want to show you a lot of Vanessa's patterns feature the ombre fabrics, or feature her ombre fabrics that she designed, but then they also include a lot of the white or snow, so solid fabrics. And I'm going to show you another alternate way to add a little bit of variety, a little bit more texture, while still having the same effect of the solid fabric. So this quilt is a new one that we just got from Vanessa. It is called Cadence. And I'll move out of the way here. You don't need to see me. You want to see the quilt. And so this is a really fun quilt that not only uses the ombre fabrics, but the fabrics kind of ombre down in the way that the blocks were arranged as well. And so it goes through the collection of those fabrics. So this is called Cadence, and it's a nice 12 block, I guess 12 fabric pattern. And this does use the jelly rolls. So I'm going to get a little bit closer because I want you to get to see some of these blocks up close. So you can see how the placement of this fabric is gradiating out, using the darker fabric in the center and then getting out to the lighter cuts on the way out. And so that has to do with using your color placement, and as you're constructing those components, that you're able to kind of play with the color a little bit if you want to. Now this would also be a really fun quilt to do with other scrappy fabrics, and I'm going to show you an option for that here in a minute too. This one was done with the metallic ombre. So this one does have that gold metallic in the print. And so this was done using this jelly roll. So this is a junior jelly roll, and that's Vanessa's cute little face right there on the tag for this jelly roll. So this is using a junior jelly roll, and these fabrics, again, this is just a little snippet of what those colors, what each of those fabrics are, because they do gradiate into darker at the selvage, and you can actually see that when you look at the end of the jelly roll. You can see how right here in the center, this is going to be where the selvage is. So it is lighter on the fold, and then it gets darker in towards the center of that selvage. So that's what these fabrics are. So this quilt takes two of the jelly rolls, two of the junior jelly rolls, and then the yardage for the background. And so this was, like I said, it is AccuQuilt friendly. I'm going to show you how to cut how to use your pre-cuts on your AccuQuilt cube. So if you have the 8-inch cube, that is going to be the cube you're going to want to use to do this quilt. And you only need a couple dies out of this, the cube to do this quilt as well. So that is using that fabric. Or as an alternate, we also have a junior jelly roll, also by Vanessa. And this is the solid ombre fabrics. So you can see, oh, that's upside down. So you can see how it's got those pretty, almost kind of sherbety, summery colors to it. So you could use this jelly roll as well. And again, you can see looking at the end of the jelly roll that it gets darker here in the center, and that is because at the selvage of that fabric is the darkest part. So you could use 2 of these if you wanted to. So you're going to need 2 strips of jelly roll to complete 1 block. So that's why you want to do 2 of these, because there's less strips in a junior jelly roll, but you need twice as many of them. So if you had full-size jelly rolls, you could do that. You'd still need 2 of them though, because you need 2 strips to complete each block. So this is the pattern. So this is Cadence, is this quilt. Isn't that a lot of fun? And so Vanessa does use the solid fabric for the background of this, and the quilting on this is very nice as well. You can see it's got a couple of folds in there. I should have pressed it before I started, but it does have a nice space to add your quilting in there as well. Now, if you are averse to using solid white fabric, or you want something that has a little bit more texture, we also have some great white on white fabrics that I'm going to show you that would work out really nice. And I'm going to show you another thing you could do too, is we do have some of these available as pre-cuts. And so you could actually get a pre-cut jelly roll or strip pack of some of these white on whites, and then it would save a lot of the cutting work for you as well. So these are a couple of white on whites, and we do have, when you see these on our website, you can see the print of them as well. However, the light in here is actually pretty good. I think you can see the texture to this. So it is a nice, subtle, true white on white fabric, and there are several prints in this collection. They're all fairly small prints. So you can, and that one is really subtle. They're all fairly small prints, so they do work really great as a background fabric. And these are fabrics from Wilmington Prints. And so these are really nice white on white fabrics. So we have that all in the yardage, because if you were going to use some pre-cuts to do this quilt, you would need some yardage to finish the sashings and the borders and everything. So we could help you put together a collection of either a couple of different fabrics to fulfill that, or just one fabric to go ahead and be able to finish those extra pieces. So those are some white on whites. We also have, actually while I'm back here, let me show you this too. We have these in, Wilmington does a great job of putting together these fabrics in different colorways. So we do have the white on whites, but we also have black on black. So this one is this is from a collection called After Midnight, and this is true black on black, and that has little stars on them. We also have a collection called Ruby Days, I believe, and this is another black on black fabric. So this we have in the same kind of prints, but in reds, in navies, in oh gosh, I'll have to remember what all the other colors were too, but we have them in several colors. Creams, we have those as well. So I'm going to show you some of the pre-cuts, and that'll kind of clue me in again about which ones we have available as yardage, because we do have a lot of really great pre-cuts right now. And I've talked about these a little bit before, but I wanted to go a little bit more into detail to show you some of these pre-cuts today. And all of these that are in these nice packaging, these are from Wilmington Prints. And what I love about these is a couple of things. First off, they're packaged in plastic. So you're not going to get messy edges. You're not going to get frayed edges on them. It's going to last very long time this way if you don't get to this project right away. The other thing that I love about these is that they are a smaller size. So there's 24 strips in one of these packs. And so if you needed to have 44 or 40 strips to do a larger quilt or a larger pattern, you can just get 2 of them. But you have a better selection in here with it this way. The other thing that I love about these is they are all straight cuts. So look at that. These are all straight cut edges. So you don't have pinked edges with these pre-cuts. So I want to show you what some of these are, because I know that sometimes photos online don't do them justice, and sometimes it's hard to tell also. So this one is called Sonic Bloom, and sometimes it's hard to tell, but this is a batik fabric. So this is a batik collection that is just a really nice collection of kind of rainbowy, springtime, fresh colors. The other thing is all of these fabrics we do have yardage for. So this collection is batik fabric. So if you said, oh, Therese, I really love that purple that's in the Sonic Bloom, can you get me 3 yards of that? We absolutely can, because we have that fabric available. So that was Sonic Bloom. Let me show you a couple of other batik ones. This one is called Off Tropic, and this one has a nice collection of blues and greens. This is another batik collection. Another one that is batiks is Wild Blue Yonder, and this really goes into the navies and the greens, and then goes actually into kind of the gray tones at the end there. So you get a nice assortment of those fabrics. Queen Bee, and this is going to be your blacks, grays, yellows, and creams. And you could certainly add some of these collections together to be able to work with them together. Sheer Luck, and Sheer Luck is a really lovely little pastel collection. These are all batik collections that I've shown you so far. So all of these ones are batiks, and this is nice because it is pretty subtle fabrics. I would say the one here on the end is the only one that's really multicolored. The rest of them are pretty subtle. And a few of these, we do have a few of these as the double packs. So this would have 40 strips in this pack of Sheer Luck. So it's just double of the same. It's the same number of fabrics and the same quantity and everything like that. It's just double. So there's 40 strips in this pack. So some of these we do have available as the double packs as well. The other thing is with the batik pre-cuts, these are cut one time and then they're no longer available. So if you see a batik pre-cut that you like, do not wait for it, because you will not be able to find it again. This is called Head in the Clouds, and this is it's almost kind of a purpley gray kind of a collection that it does have some teal and some blue in there as well. That's another batik one. And Wind Chill, we have a lot of great batik pre-cuts right now. Wind Chill, this is a very popular one because it's got those pretty purples, really rich purples, some grays that are in there as well. This is really, really a nice one. Wind Chill. Seize the Gray. This is all sorts of different gray shades of gray, and then goes into the dark, into the black batik fabrics as well. Let's Seize the Gray. Cream of the Crop. Some of these names are so much fun. Cream of the Crop. This one would be a great background collection. It's got creams, kind of buttery yellowy creams to it, and then goes into kind of the white, that lighter background. Great background fabric. Bright Idea. This is a fun one, and this is really bright, like fuchsia, intense purple. It goes into some bright greens and some bright teal right at the end there. So bright idea. Let's see what other ones are batiks. Okay, I think those are all the batik ones. And then I want to show you some of the print ones. So this is Bubble Up, and this is a really fun collection. So this is a collection that kind of has that ombre effect to it as well. I'll show you the back side of that so you can see. It does gradiate, and this this header here shows you kind of how this is a small version of what that whole thing is. But Bubble Up, this is a really fun collection. This would be great paired with a solid fabric of any color. That would be a lot of fun. So we do have yardage available for that one as well. Oh, you know what? I missed this one. I missed two of these. These are also batik. This is Stardust. And this is purples, pinks, black. So kind of that starry night sky kind of a look there. And Aurora, this is another one that is batiks. And these have just a really fine little dot on them. So these are a nice little, that's the same design on all of the pieces in both Aurora and Stardust. So those are kind of a basic batik fabric that was added to their collection. A couple of other prints. So this is called Sunny Side Up, and this is all fun, bright yellow fabrics in this collection, Sunny Side Up. And these are part of their Essentials, part of Wilmington's Essentials collection. So they do continue to stock those fabrics. So if you were working with those, you can always find more of that fabric. This is called All American. This is our classic red, white, and blue, true navy, bright red, and white. So that is a really nice 2.5-inch strip pre-cut. We also have All American as a double pack. So we have it with that it has the 40 strips in a pack. And then the rest of these are some great basic fabrics as well. So this is After Midnight. So I showed you that fabric in the color room, but then this is the pre-cut. So these are all different fabrics in here, but they are all that black on black fabric. So it's a different design on each of those fabrics, but it is a really great basic. In the navy, this is same idea, navy fabrics, all different prints in this pre-cut. We do have those fabrics available by the yard. Caramel Macchiato. These are cream fabrics. So cream on cream fabrics, all different prints in this pre-cut as well. And all three of those I just showed you, the Caramel Macchiato, the In the Navy, and the After Midnight, we have those all in the double strip packs as well. This one is called Cookie Dough. And this is a mixture. This is like a cream. Oh, this is, I'm going to hold these two up so you can see the difference here. So Caramel Macchiato and Cookie Dough. So you can see that Caramel Macchiato is on the top, and it's a little bit more creamy, a little bit more yellowy, beigey, and then the Cookie Dough is a little bit lighter. And I'm going to hold that Cookie Dough up and show you whiteout. So we have Cookie Dough, and then we have whiteout. So whiteout is even lighter. And then one more that I want to add into here for comparison is White Light. So you can see White Light is I would say the whitest, and then it would go to Whiteout, and then it would go to Cookie Dough. So those are some great pre-cuts. Now, if you are going back to that conversation we had earlier, well, one-sided conversation that I had, I'm sure you're talking at me through the camera as well. With the White Light, if you were looking to do the Cadence quilt with Vanessa's ombre fabrics, something like this White Light collection would be fabulous to put with it because it still reads white, but there is a little bit more texture to it, so it's a little bit more of an interesting background for starters. Second, half the work is done for you. This is already pre-cut into your 2.5-inch strips, so it is ready to go into your AccuQuilt cutter or ready to just be cut. And so you have a lot of advantages for doing something like this. Plus, you get a lot of variety with a pre-cut like this. So it would be hard to get the yardage to have the variety in something like the white light. So those are, oh, and then one more. This is a really great collection that was put together by Wilmington for the All Iowa Shop Hop. And this is a really nice creams and tan collection. So this is called the Iowa Shop Hop Neutral collection. So we have those available as the pre-cuts as well. So I hope you enjoyed getting to see some of those pre-cuts up close. I do have these all on our website as well, so you can see more pictures of them, but I think it's also is really nice to kind of have a little bit of a description so you know, was that really navy? Was that really gray? How white is that one? So if you, hopefully you can compare those and kind of see the difference in those guys as well. So let me show you about cutting some of those pre-cuts, specifically using the AccuQuilt cutter to do some of this cutting. So we're gonna go right over here. Okay, so if we, and I'm gonna lower my tripod down here a little bit so that you can see. Okay, there we go. Should be able to see that. So if you're using the cube, you actually are going to be using the 2.5-inch half square triangle. So this is die number 5, and this is for doing the Cadence quilt. And then you'll be using die number 2, which is just the square. So there's actually 4 squares that are on this die. And I'm going to show you how to cut both of those pieces out, because the square, with using the pre-cuts, with using the 2.5-inch strips, you know, how do you lay those on here because there's not a space in between those. So I'm going to start with showing you the half square cuts. So this is a jelly roll that I have that does have, it's part of the Cave collection, and it does have the pinked edges on it. So it's got those pinked edges on there. And then I'm going to use it with one of the In the Navy strips from the Wilmington Prints collection. So these are just really nice. So one of the tips that I have for you when you're cutting using the AccuQuilt cutter, it's a lot easier to align your fabric before it goes into the cutter than have to put it on here, take it out, take it apart at the sewing machine and put it back together. So let's try to make this a little bit easier by removing some of those steps. So what I will do is I would take my In the Navy, so I'm going to use the navy instead of the white. I really love how navy looks with a lot of these really bright, intense colors. I think that it is really going to make these fabrics pop. And so I would take one layer of In the Navy and I will lay it down on my die. And you can see how, get a little bit closer here. Go down. There we go. So you can see how when I look at my die, how these triangles are offset here. And so that's going to allow me to really get in here and be able to just lay that fabric right over top of it. Now, especially when you're starting to do this, you might not want to cut through like all of the 6 or the 8 layers that you normally would cut through with AccuQuilt, just because there is a little bit more alignment that you have to pay attention to, especially with pre-cuts. So when I'm doing this, I would put down the straight cut piece first because I can line that up perfectly with where the blades are on this. And then I would take my pinked edge fabric and I would lay that right sides together. So again, the reason for doing this is because after I cut this, I can just take this to the sewing machine and sew. I don't have to go back through and realign that fabric. So this is going to save you a lot of time if you take a little bit of time before you are cutting. And I do this even when I'm rotary cutting too, because it is faster. It saves you some time. Now the way that the Cadence pattern specifically was written is that you do need to open the strips up to do the cutting anyways. You cannot fan fold or anything with this. And so this is the same thing. It's the same idea with the AccuQuilt cutting too. So and so this has we have the layers on here. Now I could go back through and let me grab another strip and we'll do another layer as well, because we can cut through, well, at least cut through 4 layers today while I'm doing this. Now, when I get a little bit more confident with it, working on this, then I would cut through maybe 6 or 8 layers. But still, looking at how much time this whole technique of cutting with the AccuQuilt cutter is saving you, it is really worthwhile. Now, I also want to point out something to you, and you know, we've talked about the straight cut versus the pinked edges. I'm going to hold this up so that you can see this really well. And we talk about the challenge with pinked edges. Look at all of that pink that's showing up out on the outside of this. How would you possibly know where on that pinked edge that you were supposed to be lining it up? If I can see it, if you can see it, I mean, that's a good 1/16 of an inch that pinked edge is going past the true straight edge of the 2.5 inch strip. So this, my friends, could be some part of your frustration, and this is why using a system like the AccuQuilt system is going to make this so much easier, because it also is going to clean up those edges so that you don't have a question when you go into your sewing machine of what you're lining it up with. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that because that was a really good visual that I could see, and I want you to see that too. So I've got my second sandwich in here. So I have navy print, right side, all of it is right sides together. And I'm going to take my mat and put that on top of it. Now, you know, with these mats that you can rotate it either side, you can turn it around, you can move it around as well. So I could align it here, even though it's not perfectly centered on my die if I want to. For this time, I am going to kind of center it on there and just put it into the machine. Okay, so with this, I still am grabbing it all together. Oop, and it, because there wasn't very much extra fabric there, it just pulled off, which is fine. And then again, if you rub the mat a little bit for good luck and also to disperse some of the static, you'll see, now look at this. Look at all of that pinked edge that's coming off of here. So this is why, this is how I use the AccuQuilt system with the pre-cuts, because all of that little bit of trim, if you're off that much when you're sewing, that's going to be, you know, when you look at it, especially at something like the Cadence quilt, where there is so many seams across that whole quilt, if you were off by a 1/16 of an inch, there's at least 16 seams in one block. So that's 1 whole inch that you could be off if you're not aligning it with the correct edge. Okay? So now what I can do is I can take these and I would just stack these up. And I'm a real big fan of kind of stacking things like this. So when I'm going to my machine, I don't have like a huge stack of everything straight stacked. So I have it kind of in small groups like this. The other reason I do this is I'm pretty consistent when I'm cutting. So if I'm going to cut through 4 layers at a time, I'm going to cut through 4 layers at a time for cutting that whole project apart. And so then when I need to go back and count this, I know that each stack is 4 or 2 blocks, whatever, you know, whatever it is that you're cutting through. So it makes that a lot easier rather than counting each individual fabric. How many times do you have to count each individual fabric every time that you're cutting? So I will do this a lot where I will stack those. So when I go to my sewing machine, then it's really easy to pull these apart. These are ready to go into my machine. There's no realigning that I need to do at all. So this is going to be a huge time saver for you if you will get these going ahead of time before you put those through your machine. Is that pretty cool? You learned a couple techniques there. Okay, now if I'm going to be cutting using the square die, let's set those aside because I don't want to mess those guys up. So if I'm going to be cutting using the square die, the Cadence pattern, this is all cut from the background fabrics. So I would take, so we're going to set aside some of those cave strips and pull out just these background fabrics. So I would do the same thing with this, just that I would line these up and just kind of butt those up next to each other. Now I wouldn't worry as much about these ones being right sides together or not, because you are going to be, you're not going to be doing the right sides together for sewing that part of that block together. But I would go ahead and just kind of butt those edges up over each other. If by chance this was the pinked edges and they were overlapping a little bit, that is just fine. So if I'm going to show you this, even though we're not going to cut the squares with the pinked edges, I want to show you what I'm talking about. So even if we were doing a pre-cut that had pinked edges, and the same concept would work for charm squares. If you had charm squares, same idea here. I would just overlap the pinked edges there, just making sure that it was for sure covering my outer edge, and I would overlap that pinked edge. I would probably just not be cutting through 8 layers of fabric here, because that whole center seam is going to basically be kind of doubled up. So I would probably just be cutting through 6 layers of fabric on each side, knowing that my seam in the center has some extra depth to it as well, or extra height to it as well. So that's how I use the AccuQuilt cutter to do using my pre-cuts. So hopefully you learned a couple of little techniques there. Now I'm going to go to the other side here because I want to show you something new that we have that we're able to offer you. So AccuQuilt has another kind of a die system that's called the Studio system. And with that, we can cut through more layers of fabric. And they just introduced, they're working on, I shared with you last week that they're coming out with dies to make the masks, and that will work with the Go cutters, with the electric and the classic Go cutters. But they also, before that even started, they had already started making mask dies for the Studio cutter, for the bigger cutters. And that the Studio cutters were really designed for shops to like cut kits for. There are some people that own the Studio cutters, but the dies are more expensive. They don't have all of the same kind of things that you can do with the classic Go cutters. And so the Studio cutter dies were already in production. So we've already gotten a couple of those for use for our Studio cutter. And so I have started to cut mask kits. Now these are, we have a couple other sizes and another style that's coming, but right now we have the die to make this DIY mask kit. And so this is just a 2-piece kit, and it has the, so the front is 2 pieces, the lining is 2 pieces, and then there are also the ties. So this is something that there's multiple sizes available. This is actually a children's size. There's also, there's a small size, which is this. There's a medium size, which I would say, I put this small size on my 3- and 4-year-old, and it works for them. It would work up to probably a young adult, a teenager. The medium size would be appropriate for kind of that teenager to, pretty much anybody else. And then there's a large size that they're recommending for men. And so we have the large size coming, but right now I have the small size and I have the medium size. So what we're doing is cutting these kits that you can get a kit. And I want to show you what's in these kits, because I know that we have a lot of people that are now to the point where they want to make kits or want to make masks for their family, for their friends, for their neighbors, for their church groups. All sorts of people I know are still needing masks, and it is very labor intensive and takes a lot of time to do all of the steps for making the masks. So in the kit, this is what the pre-cut pieces look like. So you have the exterior piece and you have the lining piece, which is a little bit smaller. And I'm going to be doing a full video that I will be posting that has the full instructions, full construction instructions on there. But I just want to give you a little heads up here. What I did is when I was cutting these, I have already cut all of these so that they are right sides together. So when you open your kit, you can just take these pieces out, sew the seams, and get going with the construction. You do get a pattern included with the kit as well. And so the pattern shows you how to construct this. And it does have the instructions for doing both doing the ties, or putting elastic in, or using the hair bands. So you have all three options in there, and you have the ties are included in the kit as well. So it's 4 ties for 1 mask. So you're putting together the exterior and interior pieces, and then you're making the ties. Now again, I want to show you how to make these ties and how to use this bias binder. So this is the 12 millimeter or the 1/2 inch bias binder. So 1/2 inch means that right here, when it comes out of that bias binder, that it is a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to show you how we will get this into our 1/4 inch ties. So what you're going to do is you will take, so these strips are pre-cut at 1 inch. So they're 1 inch wide because they're going to be 1/2 inch finished. And so you take this strip and you put it into the bias tape maker. And this is a straight cut strip. It is not a bias strip. Sorry, all thumbs here today when I'm trying to hold it so that you can see it too. So we put it into the bias tape maker, and this is the one that is the fusible bias tape maker. So it has that little slit on the bottom side of it, and so that's where I'm going to use my stiletto. So I use my by Annie's stiletto to just pull that piece down so that it starts to come, you can see how it's starting to come out of the bias tape maker. So here it's already folded over, so it's like folded in the center. So the seam is, the open seam is there in the center. And so now I'm going to take my iron, and this is one of those wool pressing mats, and this is really nice. I wouldn't use this in place of an ironing board, but this is nice for especially doing something like this. This is a little Clover mini iron, and so this little puppy gets real hot and is able to, you can easily take this. So if you're need to sit somewhere, don't want to stand at your ironing board all day, you can take this and make your bias strips. So you can see how, as I'm just pulling that fabric through the bias tape maker, I just have my iron right there following right behind it. And then what I can do is I can go back and I fold that again, and I can just press that again, and this creates my 1/4 inch ties. So then you're just going to zip down the folded edge of this with your sewing machine with a straight stitch to help to secure this, and you've got your tie. You can also, you know, like I said, use the elastic or use the hair ties. Now, to answer your question that I know you're asking, when is the elastic coming? It's on the FedEx truck. It's coming today. It'll be here today. So if you have it, if you've contacted us about doing curbside pickup, we will contact you when we have it cut. If we're shipping it to you, we will get it shipped out today. So with this edge, then you just take this folded edge and you sew along the edge of that. And what I did with my ties on this is on the end, they tell you in the pattern that you can fold it over and finish it. I just took it and tied it in a knot. This is utilitarian purpose here, folks. This does not have to be couture sewing. You could even cut this at an angle, like at a 45-degree angle, to help with the fraying. But the other thing I like about this way is that then it's really easy to adjust if I needed to tie up more of that end tie. That's really easy to do as well. So this pattern is a very basic, very simple pattern to do. You can also, all of the kits I have included both a lining and exterior fabric that are different fabrics so that you know which one is on the outside. But if you put it together and said, well, I like the interior fabric better, okay, there you go. So now we have it the other way. So that's the way that you'll hold it, or the way that you'll wear it. The only difference is that you'll have your exterior fabric showing on the binding on this side instead of it being a nice finished binding. So you get to choose which way that you use it. But of course, for safety purposes, you want to be consistent with how this is being worn. So let me open up one of these kits so I can show you this. Now I've started to put together just some basic kits, but I am going to be doing some CAFE specific kits and some Tula Pink kits and some batik kits. So if you have specific fabrics, I mean, when I say specific, I mean specific line fabrics. We're not gonna pick and choose, but the standard kits that we're making up are just a hodgepodge of kits of fabrics that we put together. I try to put things in there that are gender neutral. Of course, the CAFE and the Tula fabrics are a little bit more florally, a little bit more feminine maybe looking. So if you're looking for that, certainly go towards one of those kits. So in a kit, you have enough supplies to make 6 masks. So you can do 6 masks out of one kit. You have the ties. So there's 4 ties for each mask. So those are already all pre-cut. And the way that I have this kit arranged is that you can see on here, you can see my seahorse fabric, and then you can see this fabric is extending. So this is the larger fabric here, and the pattern tells you that the larger piece is the exterior piece. So I have these guys grouped together. So this one I happen to have 2 different styles of fabric in the one kit. And so this is the exterior fabric for this kit, and this is the interior. Now I know that looks a little bit dull because, again, I have these all ready for you to take these to the sewing machine. They were cut together so that it makes it nice and easy. So this is a really bright and fun one, fun collection here, fun fabric collection. But I am trying to coordinate things so that you can kind of mix and match and make them your own custom thing if you want to. But if you want to just get them sewing and get them going, then they're ready to go that way as well. So we do have, like I said, all of the supplies to do the 6 kits are in one, or 6 masks are in one kit. Let me show you one of the kids' kits that I put together. And the pattern is also included in the kit. So you can, so you know exactly what you're doing. This is one that I put together for the kids, or the small size. And so this has some fun. This is Pokemon. I learned that by reading The End of the Bolt. So I put together some fabrics there, and I am trying, especially with the kids ones, to put together kind of gender neutral. If there's something that's maybe a little bit more feminine looking, then I'm putting together something that's gender neutral. So this is a fun little text design. Now, all of these are different, and when these fabrics are gone, it's going to be replaced with a different fabric. So I don't have the ability to, you know, we don't have thousands of yards of one fabric to be able to do the same masks for everything, but this is just kind of a fun way to get some fun fabrics out there as well. Now, if you are interested in sponsoring kits, I know that there are some groups and some individuals that are making making masks for people. Please contact me. You can email me at Therese@inspiredtosew.com, and I'm happy to talk to somebody about sponsoring kits so that we have the ability to, you have the ability to give them to a place that you want or an individual that you want. Nancy, to answer your question, unfortunately, I cannot find any Hawkeye or Iowa State fabric from many of our vendors right now that are currently shipping. So unfortunately, I don't have any of that, but I do have lots of other fun fabrics that we're going to be doing as well. So I hope that you will participate with that and let me know what else that you are looking for. And otherwise, I will see you again very soon. Thank you for watching. As always, please share this video on your Facebook page and with the other groups that you're involved in, especially because we have so many great details about the masks, in having them completely pre-cut. We know we have a lot of new sewers that are out there that are wanting to make masks, and we want them to be successful. And we also have some great sewers that are already participating, and we want to make that process a little bit easier for you. So we're doing the best we can to make that a little bit easier. Again, as a reminder of what I said earlier, to reiterate, our elastic is coming in today, and so we will be cutting all of the elastic. And if you have contacted us to arrange curbside delivery, please know that we will contact you when your order is cut. Otherwise, we will ship it to you. If you want curbside delivery and you've not contacted us yet, please email us at orders@inspiredtosew.com, and we will confirm that we've received that, and we'll let you know when it is ready. Linda, to answer your question, I have different prices on the kits. The kits that I've put together that are kind of our hodgepodge kits are a little bit, I tried to keep the cost way down. They're, I think, $4 a kit, or $4 a mask is what it equates to. So there's 6 masks. There's enough for 6 masks in one kit. And then the ones that have more of the designer fabrics are a little bit more, because those fabrics cost a little bit more, but we do have them all listed on our website. And so, like I said, every kit is going to be a little bit different, but it'll be a lot of fun. And we're using all 100% cotton, quilt shop quality. This is fabric that I'm pulling from the store. It is not an inferior quality of fabric that we're pulling. So this is a really nice quality of fabric. So, but we do have all of these kits are available online, and we are shipping them today. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you again very soon. Help you be inspired to sew. Bye, everybody.